young men sitting here with their coxes as well, ready to go in the first race of the afternoon session here on Friday at Henley. So the hands are going up, and it's the Thames Challenge Cup with Thames Rowing Club B furthest from us, and in the front of your picture here, Sydney Rowing Club from Australia in the distinctive light blue suits and oars. So the umpire calls them over. The hands are up to illustrate the crews are getting to a line, make sure they go off straight. When the hands come down, the umpire, I think it's Richard Phelps, will drop the flag and they'll be off.
Attention! Go!
That always feels a long pause waiting for this moment, and finally they can unleash. Birds flying in all directions with the two crews power down along the island. Clean start, straight to the race.
I love that explosion from the nerves and the silence to the force and the power. There's the Thames Rowing Club B crew. 30 Henley appearances between them, so that's a lot of experience, a lot of familiarity of getting off cleanly from the start, stretching out into their rhythm, real focus through this boat.
Yeah, we talk about how different this regatta can feel, and the experience can count. You know, it's a different warm-up style. There's different things affect the water that can affect your rhythm. There's obviously boats going by. You've got very, very close side-by-side racing by this, so the experience really matters when it gets to this level of competition.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite a good race here. You can see the Australians looking like they're slightly in front already. Really strong, solid rowing from them. Just look at that, smooth, lots of power in that boat.
Yeah, we saw yesterday in the Thursday racing, Sydney had a sort of slightly rougher start. It took them a little while to settle into the strong rhythm, but they seem to have found it early today, and they are taking this race on.
Several under-23s from 20 to 21 in that Sydney Rowing Club crew, and it looks to me like they've got maybe half a length, Catherine, here at this point, and it's pretty critical for Thames to keep rowing their own rhythm in their own race here, not to get disturbed and start to kind of try to do too much too soon. Yeah,
I mean, as we say, this is a long course. It's just over the usual 2,000-metre course, and that extra 112 metres can feel the difference in a lot of racing. So for this Thames crew, they'll feel a Sydney 8 starting to move out in them, and the main thing their cox will be calling them is just to, you know, to pull back on that distance, not let the Sydney feel they're slipping away. You want to stop any movement that's moving out, and then try and reverse it as you bring them back towards you.
Here we're looking at the blade work of that Sydney crew, those light blue spoons leaping into the water and the legs going down. That's the face there of well, in the sixth seat, distinctive beard from Torrum Olsen, sitting there in the engine room of the crew. That's where the power and the rhythm has to be sustained from the stroke man to the bowman.
This is where it's always hard and slightly agonising watching rowing racing, is, you know, so many of the camera angles, it's quite hard to tell exactly what crew is going to be ahead, especially when it's close like this. And it is, you know, although it's a long course, you know, things can happen within a stroke or two. So, you know, both of these crews are really still side by side, even this far into the race.
Yeah, so Thames Rowing Club B, we can see 35 strokes a minute. That's a good sort of solid rate of strokes for the rhythm through the middle of the piece, and boat speed just notching around 19 kilometres per hour. So that's a good speed as well. But alongside them, well, it looks like the Australian crew has got a little bit of an edge, slightly faster boat speed, but you can see how closely matched they are. It's going to turn into a really good race as they come to the middle of the course. The umpire just there warning Thames to stay on their station.
Yeah, it looks like Sydney's just holding that slightly higher rhythm, that slightly higher rate. So how many strokes per minute? They're just keeping it a little bit more pacier, and they're trying to make, you know, every time you can just nudge out, you know, even one person down the boat, if you can just pull out one space, mentally you feel you've got the advantage. But impressive from Thames, they're not letting them get away.
Yeah, and I think some of that experience at Henley for Thames, they know exactly where they are on the track is important, and they are both exactly at the halfway point there. That's just passing the falling marker, which is 1,047 metres down the track, so 9 metres further, and that's the halfway mark. And I think Thames are really trying to make a move now. That third quarter of the race is often the base that races are won, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the one, especially in these cocked boats, you'll be, you know, the cocked will be asking everything of this crew in this moment. The third quarter is kind of infamous among the rowing team, is where, you know, halfway feels a solid point, but it's still a very long way to go, and it starts to really hurt in this bit. So you have to keep your head, and especially if you're that crew that's now half a length behind, you you know, already in the stern, they'll have felt the boat have gone. They wouldn't be able to see the boat anymore of the Sydney stern. So the stern need to keep their focus and try and make that distance up.
Well, this is what I used to call kitchen sink time when I was rowing. Basically, it's now or never for Thames B. You really have to decide to put everything you've got into this, because if you do and you start to reel the other guys in, you get a lift. You get a little bit of an extra confidence, and in the Sydney boat you start to maybe doubt yourselves at a time when you're really fatigued. So it's kitchen sink time for Thames B. Sydney, they just need to keep doing what they're doing, keep that style, that determination, that length.
Yeah, and this is a nice, you know, this is a nice camera shot. You can see those relaxed shoulders. You can see the work coming down. It's a very rhythmic, very repetitive style they've got right now. They know that they haven't got it their own way yet. There's too much of an overlap to be completely comfortable. But if they keep doing what they're doing, they're just sneaking out that margin every stroke down the course.
Yeah, and so much of what you said there, Catherine, is all about that, just an extra centimetre or two per stroke. Not trying to do too much, but if you all can produce an extra centimetre or two each stroke, then you've got the difference. But it looks to me like Thames, well, they have really dug deep, and they have moved back a little bit on Sydney. They're keeping the overlap, and that's going to be something which Sydney don't want to see. Both of these crews had a couple of rounds of relatively comfortable races to get here. This is the first time they're both being tested.
Yeah, and this is the interesting bit. When we get to sort of the Friday of the regatta, then, you know, there's no simple races left. Every race is going to ask everything of these athletes, and they've already got a couple of days racing in all their legs. So, you know, the fatigue is kicking in, and yet every race almost matters more as you get towards this point.
And you can see through the splashes of water we're facing here, some of the heads in the Thames boat just looking around to see, were we still in contact? Are we starting to move? David Potter at bow, we could see in the Thames crew's head just looking across. And once you start to get a sniff that you're moving, if you're sitting on the bow or two-seat, the first thing you do is go, yeah, let's go, we're moving. And the rest of the crew get a lift from that. And I guess that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, you get that lift from within the boat, but look at the crowds down the banks as well. I mean, this is, again, a regatta. You are so close to the public roar and the public cheer. So the Thames are getting a lot of home support as well from this crowd.
You can hear it from the commentary box, which is just on the finish line. The crowd are rising to their feet, rushing to the bank to see this great race unfolding. But it looks like the Australians, who've had the edge all the way through, looks like they've been able to sustain that lead. The attack from Thames B came, and it's coming again as they come towards the line. Well, back to about a quarter to a third of the length over the Thames B crew from the Australians. What a row, what a race.
Fantastic races from both crews. I mean, you know, no one was going to get away with that one. That was going to be from start to finish an absolute flat-out race.
So